Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vijaya and today we're going to talk about the type of books I read as a kid between the age of 10 to 17. Of course, I'm not going to mention every single book that I read as a kid. Obviously not, because most of the books I read I borrowed from the library, some of them I borrowed from friends, and some of them are in my collection. And this is the one that I have in my collection, but not all. Of course, because some of them I kept in boxes, some of them I gave away. So this is the one I still have currently. The first book I would like to introduce you guys is this Mystery Remaja series. Mystery is Mystery, Remaja is Teenager. So this is a teen series by Alexandra Porter. And it has like 3 or 4 stories in each book, I guess, because there are like 4 titles at the front of the book. I can't remember, to be honest with you. I can't remember if the whole novel is a novel or if there's like a short novella within each book. But I remember enjoying this very much. I definitely enjoyed this book very much. I remember rereading this a lot of times. And Alexandra Porter is definitely one of my favorite writers. At least for teenage series, at least. For I can't really say that for adult fiction because I have just started reading his book, his adult fiction. The second book I have here is Nancy Drew. I read a lot of Nancy Drew when I was a kid. Definitely, I read a lot of Nancy Drew. I also read the Malaysian adaptation, which is Salma Hamid as well. But for Salma Hamid, I do not own any of it. I borrowed it mostly from the library. The same goes for Nancy Drew too. Actually, this is the only exceptions. This is the only 2 that I have. The rest I usually borrow from the library as well. The only books that I look forward to borrow from the library is Nancy Drew and Salma Hamid. Like, seriously. Like, you know how last time we used to have these library cards in order for us to borrow books, like those like paper cards, and then I used to buy like 10 cards at once so that I can borrow 10 books at once, and I brought them back home and I read all of them like within 2 days, which is crazy. And I also have this Goosebumps. Yes, a kind of horror, a little supernatural a bit. I mean, come on, the likelihood of a hamster turns into a monster is really low, but it happens in this book. It happened in this book, and yeah. Next we have Sherlock Holmes. This is actually a text used for class, not for class in public school, but for an extra class for English language that I attended when I was 12. I went for this extra tuition, and then this particular tuition center used this as a text. So I studied this and I actually enjoyed it very much. I was actually really disappointed by the fact that it's really thin because it only contains 1 story. And since then I've been trying to, you know, borrow from people if they have any Sherlock Holmes book. I love this so much. It's introduced me to a legend. Howls Moving Castle. This is a fantasy book. Usually I don't read fantasy. If I were to ask my mom to buy a book for me, I wouldn't ask her to buy me a fantasy book. I would ask her to buy me a book that has the word secret agent, assassination, murder, monster, detective at the back of the book. Like if there's the word detective, secret agent, hamster turned into a monster, murder, assassination, hitman, or stuff like that, then that's the book for me. But this doesn't even have any of those words, and yet I have this book because my neighbor actually gave it to me for my birthday, and I actually enjoy it very much. I actually love this book very much. Seriously, it's just wow. I remember my favorite character in this book was the Fire Demon, and I still love him until now, even though I have quite forgotten what this book is all about. But I remember there was this magical elements to it, and then there was a bit of romance a bit, but not so obvious. But there was a lot of magical stuff, and there were these hats. She's a hat maker. I mean, there's a character who's a hat maker or something like that. It was really interesting. And And then next we have Ramli Awang Murshid. How can you not love Ramli Awang Murshid? He's the #1 thriller novelist in Malaysia. I was introduced to him by a friend. You see, I was in boarding school at the time. I was 16. I was complaining a lot about how hard it is to find a decent Malay language novel for my age, at least at the time. I was 16 and I wasn't still a huge fan of thriller and stuff like that, but I don't feel like there were many Malay language books on that, or at least I was not aware of it. And the ones that I kept seeing in bookstores was the romance kind, and those are not the romance kind I actually approve of, because some of the romance novel actually have this, like, convey this certain message or values that I do not approve of. And I don't mind romance. It's just that some of the romance novels have this message which I disagree with, and I just feel like those kind of books are not the kind of books for me. And then a friend suggested to me Ramli Awang Murshid, and I'm just like, why didn't I discover this guy earlier? I immediately went back home for the semester break, and then I asked my mom. I didn't immediately went back home. I actually went back home during the semester break, and I immediately bought his books. I didn't buy or read or own all of his books, but I did read some of his books, and I actually enjoyed some of it, at least. Like, for example, this one, Mikhail, it's actually about a professional hitman, and it's really interesting. And then this one, a little bit of supernatural. Who's That Girl by Alexandra Porter. This is a chicklet, and it has a little bit of romance about youth and stuff like that, and I quite enjoy it. I would say I enjoy it, but only on an average level. I wouldn't say this is the type of big book. I wouldn't say that this is the type of book that I will recommend to everyone. It's quite okay, but if you ask me, if I had the choice to go back to the time where I actually purchased this, I will probably advise myself to not buy this. And next we have this. This is a Malay language novel. I hate the cover. I definitely hate the cover. These books are actually quite decent in the sense that it does not convey the silly kind of values that you can find in other Malay language books, especially those romance books. This is actually decent. Okay, I don't mind reading these kind of books sometimes, although I have to say that I only enjoy it again on an average level. I'm not really a fan of this kind of books, but okay lah. Romance is not bad. Okay, I love Jane Eyre. I do enjoy romance books from time to time, as long as they do not perpetuate silly values like a rape victim ended up falling in love with her rapist. That one is unacceptable, okay? So guys, I hope you enjoy seeing the type of books that I read as a kid between the age of 10 to 17. And I hope you find this video useful. So thank you very much, and see you next time.